morning, everybody. So I wanted to make a video about an experience I had meeting a teacher of mine. It was 2017-16. I had just done ayahuasca and Bufo Alvarius. So energetically I was super activated, and there was a lot of changes occurring. So in my perception, in my day-to-day experience, there were altered state of consciousness, there were energetic flows, energetic movements, new ways of experiencing myself. Before, everything was experienced very mentally and emotionally, but now everything was being experienced energetically. And also, it's very difficult to put into words, but there was a sense that how I was free from mind and body, and I was just free to be, and the body and the mind were there occurring. It's it's difficult to put into words, but anyway, I remember I was following like some teachers like Sadhguru, Ajashanti, and they all had like different aspects that I used on my path. So for instance, with Sadhguru I used Kriya Yoga, and mostly that. With Ajashanti, it was all about meditation and inquiry, allowing everything to be as it is. And then I used like different meditation techniques, like Joe Dispenza, his techniques to let's say to put myself into different states of being, and then have a good experience. Now, I remember for me this was like experimentation. I was just trying all these new tools out, like, oh, I can feel like this, I can be in this flow today, I can be in the flow of love, I can be in the flow of joy, I can be detached, I can just surrender and just be taken by it. They were like, I just experimenting. How does it work? It was like all of a sudden I became aware that, like, if this is my experience, I became aware that there's like a keyboard and you can put in like commands, and then all of a sudden your body and your mind respond like a computer, and everything is very automatic, very, let's say, very organically unfolding. Now, I was way too proud and way too uptight to go to a teacher, because I thought like, oh, I'm not gonna go and follow some tradition, or I'm not gonna go and commit myself to something I don't really believe in. I can do this on my own, my own inner guru and my own path and all of that. So I remember I was passing by this park, and in the park there was sitting a man was sitting there, and he had like a white robe with white long hair, and he was just sitting there. And apparently he was sitting there every day, like during the day. He sat there from 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning. Like, he would always go and sit in the morning till evening. And I had no idea what he was doing. I'd never seen somebody like that, especially here, like in Ghent, Belgium. So I remember I was intrigued, and I was like, I felt really confident, like having all these states, having all these experiences, mystical experiences, meditation experiences. I was like, I'm gonna go and check him out. So I remember sitting next to him, and he was just like so peaceful, so in allowance, in purity. There was just like this grounded openness, and it was like really a wave of embracing, acceptance, welcoming. It was really sweet. And so I felt that, and I was like, okay. And then I started to talk with him, and I started to explain all my experiences, tell him everything that I've been through. So I'm like, yeah, I've gone to this, and I've done this, and now I'm experiencing this. And at this point, I was like also having like some visions, and sometimes I would have like I would have experiences basically that I didn't understand, or I didn't have a reference point to. So I didn't know how to contextualize them, how to contextualize seeing energy or seeing patterns of energy or other. There were a lot of things happening in that time, but I didn't know how to contextualize that. So he was listening to me, and I must have talked for, I don't know, an hour or a bit less than an hour. And then after I talked, I realized like this was the first person who I could tell this honestly to, because I knew he wouldn't judge me, he didn't know me, and like I could not really relate or put out all these experiences and the way that there were challenges that that was challenging for me to other people, because people would be concerned that I would have opinion or whatever. But he was just like, I thought like maybe he will understand. I really thought that, because I don't know, he just like, I also wanted, I guess, to test him whether or not he had been through that and whether he understood that. And basically, after everything I said, he said, yeah, I just felt like you needed to tell that. And you did. But I don't hear a question. I don't hear that you want something, or you, yeah. Okay, I listened. And then I was like, but what does it all mean? And I wanted to make like a conclusion, a story about it. And he looked at me and he said, there's nothing. There's just nothing. It's all empty. And I was like, I didn't know what he was talking about. It's like, what? Because I had the experience of Bufo, 5-MeO DMT, where you're just like in the I amness, we're just a pure emptiness filled with infinite love. So I had that reference point in my memory, in my body. I was like, is he talking about that? What is he talking about? And he was like, there's nothing. It's just emptiness, emptiness. Everything you said, it can be explained with neurology, with like hypertension and this and that. There are different like explanations for that, but there's nothing. And I looked at him and I was like, is he talking about disidentifying from everything and not being identified as a person? So I looked at him and I said, are you still there? And he laughed, and I'm like, are you still a person, or are you completely gone as a person? I'm like, are you still in the process of dissolving? He's like, yeah, I'm still here. But the process is, so like, oh, okay, so you're talking about that. You're talking about completely letting go or disappearing as a person, like disidentifying completely and just being absolutely as you who you really are. And I had read about these kind of concepts and these kind of processes, and I was like, we laughed, we made a joke, and he said something like, I wish that I could be like that tree, that beautiful oak tree, or this is maybe a different tree, but it was so funny the way he said it. It was so genuine, and the laughter, it was so spontaneous. And I remember I talked with him, and we talked about meditation, and he said to me very simply, like, told me this meditation where you just imagine like you have in your belly like a sunflower, right, with all seeds, and you have to like encapsulate the sunflower and allow it to radiate, allow it to grow, to nurture. And the words that he told me, like throughout the whole things, were like maturing. It's like you need to mature, because now you're very young with all this, and you need time to mature, to grow into, to ripen. Yeah, ripening. That's the word he used, not maturing. Ripening. And I didn't understand what that meant, and also how to relate to it all. Relativity. He used the word relativity, and I also didn't know how to put it all into context, how to relate. So for me, it was very. I guess I didn't experience or felt like I got something from him. I was kind of upset, kind of disappointed. He then talked about love, and I told him how I'd experienced states of love and experiences of being together and sharing. He's like, you're talking from the head, but you have to be in the belly, because love wants nothing to do with the head. It's all about being in the belly. And honestly, that period I was mainly in the head, and when I look back at it, I see it clearly. It was all about the head. Now, when I left him, I was so disappointed. I thought, he didn't tell me anything. I was just able to tell him my story, but that's all. But then, months passed by, and I had gone through so much. I'd gone through meeting somebody and surrendering, and I was living like this practice of how would it be to give all I have to give to somebody I love, and living that on a very frequent basis, living in that state. And I remember one time I was going home from a trip, and so much time has passed by, and I didn't think about that guy, that man. I think like 5-6 months had gone by. I had met him the first time in October, and then the second time was on April. And I just felt this impulse to go. So I was on the bus and I was heading home, and all of a sudden I feel this impulse, get off. So I get off and I go to him, no expectation, no idea, no plan, but I was just okay, because I had lived, I had tried, and there was just a calmness. There was a settling, like, okay, I've experienced a lot, and it humbled me in the sense that I knew that whatever was happening, whatever was unfolding, there was no way for me to control. And I remember from his first talk, he told me, there's no end point. It's not like you're gonna get to this end point where you will know it all and be an all-knowing being or something. It's like you're constantly getting a revelation, revelation of life revelation of this, and then this, and then this, and then this. It's constantly. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I remember that. And we then went home. I then went to him. I sat next to him, and this time I felt the energy was different. There was more grounding in me. There was more presence, more, I guess, humbleness, because I had gone through so much. And I just sat down, closed my eyes, and I sat in silence with him. And I could feel the moment I sat with him, I just shared that silence with him. Now, after a time, I just opened my eyes and I looked at him, and he looked at me, or he looked at me first, and he smiled. He's like, hey. And I just, the way I remember it, it's so, yeah. I was just so speechless, and I just, like, all of a sudden these words came out, like I bowed to him. I'm like, master. And I guess I got on my feet and I kissed his feet. I don't know why, but I did. And he was like, he hugged me, and I felt so nice. And then after I had kissed his feet, he took me up, and while hugging me, he breathed on me. He's like, and I could feel like somehow something was happening. And all of a sudden, it was like all my bodily cells were vibrating with this love, and I was on such a high frequency. It was like I was floating in heaven, like uncloud love, and I felt like just like whoa, and I thought like, is this how he's feeling all the time? Holy what! I was so amazed by it, and we didn't say a lot, and he just looked at me. He's like, I'm so proud of you. And I didn't know how to understand, but I thought like it's as if he knew that I had gone through experiences. Now I never saw him after this again. Sometimes like some people that I knew that were like at a certain point in their life, I cajoled them, or I was like, hey, you should meet him, let's go. And like I was watching from a distance, because I had like this resistance. I'm like, I don't want to become a disciple or some kind of follower of him, as resistance towards having that position. So I remember my friend going to him, having a talk, and then he basically said to him like, sorry, I'm not a psychologist. I think what you need is to go and talk with a psychologist. But then another friend, he was like facing a major decision of like moving to a new country to live with his girlfriend, or staying here to make his parents happy and to not disappoint his parents. And I remember they talked for some time, and basically it was so simple. He's like, if you don't go, your parents will be happy, but you will be unhappy. If you go, your parents will be unhappy, but you may be happy, and the girl may also be happy. So it's like, whose happiness do you value? I don't remember that last part. Maybe he didn't say, but it was something like that. And my friend for him it was so clear that like he just chose his own happiness. And then he went on to New Zealand, and he lived there for 1 or 2 years, and he had a lot of experiences and shifts and changes, and yeah, he came back eventually. But I never saw that teacher again, that man. His name was Jiao. But I do, like, on a frequency level, on an energy level, I feel like he's always with me or something. There's this feeling like when he did whatever he did, the transmission or the whatever, that somehow he's always in my aura, or he's always in my field. Yeah, it was very beautiful. So yeah, that's how life just put somebody in my, like, I didn't seek out a teacher, but I just found him. When I was ready, life gives you a teacher, and then when I was ready, the teacher went away. And yeah, it was a beautiful teaching. It was like, it felt like magic, especially when he gave me the transmission hug. I was like, holy, what, like magic is real. This is like real magic.